Welcome to the WP Builds podcast, bringing you the latest news from the WordPress community. Now, welcome your hosts, David Wormsley and Nathan Wrigley.
Hello there and welcome once again to the WP Builds podcast. This is episode number 237, entitled Why WS Form Might Be the Form Plugin You'll Try Next. It's an interview with Mark Westguard, who is the founder and developer of the WS Form plugin. It was published on Thursday, the 8th of July, 2021. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and as always, a few bits and pieces of short housekeeping just before we begin. If you like the content that we produce, please feel free to share it. If you do that over on Twitter, you can use @WPBuilds, but really, whichever way you'd like to share the content, we'd be most grateful about that. If you fancy going over to your podcast player of choice and giving us a 5-star review, that would be enormously helpful as well. Over on the WPBuilds.com website is all of the content that we produce, and if you'd like to stay updated, the best way to do that is head to the subscribe page, which, as you might expect, is at WPBuilds.com/subscribe. There are options there to subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our newsletters, find us on Twitter, and so on and so forth. So that's WPBuilds.com/subscribe. We're also trying out a new way of being social at WP Builds, and that's at wpbuilds.social, which is a URL, wpbuilds.social. Head over there and join. It's a Mastodon install, a piece of open source software which kind of replicates the functionality of Twitter. So I'd be very pleased if you want to go over there and try that out. The community is now about 45 strong, so anybody that wants to join, you can swell the numbers and join in the conversation over there. Another thing to say is, last week or so, I can't exactly remember the date that we did it, we had a webinar with Mark Westguard from WS Form. So if anything that you hear in the podcast today is of interest to you, then I would suggest that you head to wpbuilds.com/webinars, and you may very well be able to watch the video there and see if there's something about the plugin that you enjoyed. Speaking of webinars, we've actually got one coming up next Tuesday the 13th of July. This time, it's all about Newsletter Glue. That's a plugin that we featured on the podcast a few weeks ago. Leslie Sim and I will be going live on the 13th of July at 2 p.m. UK time. That'll be at wpbuilds.com/live. So join us for that. One last thing to mention, if you're in the market this week for some deals, head over to our deals page, wpbuilds.com/deals, and you will be able to avail yourself of significant discounts with codes on all sorts of WordPress related things. So that might be plugins or themes or hosting, wpbuilds.com/deals. The WP Builds podcast was brought to you today by A/B Split Test. Do you want to set up your A/B split test in record time? The new A/B split test plugin for WordPress, it'll have you up and running in a couple of minutes. Use your existing pages and you can test anything against anything else. That could be buttons, images, headers, rows, anything. And the best part is it works with Elementor, Beaver Builder and the WordPress block editor. So check it out and get a free demo. absplittest.com. Okay, as I said at the top of the show, this is episode number 237, and I'm chatting to Mark Westguard all about the WS Form plugin. You may be thinking to yourself, another form plugin? Well, this may well be worth looking at, and the reason I say that is because it handles so much stuff. Really, truly remarkable, the depth and breadth of what this plugin can do. I'm really not entirely sure why it isn't as popular as some of the other incumbents in the area, but WS Forms is a very capable form solution. If you've got any need whatsoever, then it's probably possible with WS Form. So I talked to Mark today, why he built the product, how he built the product, what the pricing is, and what are some of the things that he believes it does better, if you like, than some of the other rivals. So we talk about things like conditional logic and the calculations that are built in, and it's just a really nice piece of software. Check it out on the podcast today, episode number 237. I hope that you enjoy it. Hello there, welcome to the WP Builds podcast once more. This week you've got an interview. Last week we would have had an episode with David Wormsley and myself, but this week we have an interview, and today we're talking all about forms. This is a subject that we've covered before, but not quite like this. Today I'm talking to Mark Westguard from WS Form. Hello, Mark.
Hey Nathan, how are you?
Very good. Just a quick bit of background about you. You have a British accent, but you are not in Britain. If you just want to tell us who you are, where you're from, and all of that kind of stuff. What's your relationship with WordPress, very quickly?
Sure. Originally from the UK, as you can tell from my accent, very similar to your accent. And I moved to the US about 16 years ago, moved to New Orleans, was brought over by my wife, shipped over. And I've had a web agency for about 25, 26 years now, and have been developing with WordPress for many, many years. And WS Form, which we're going to talk about today, is one of our products that we produce, a WordPress form plugin. I now actually live just south of Atlanta, Georgia, in the US.
Thank you so much. Now, the reason that we got in touch, and I can't remember whether you reached out to me, I think, because we did an episode, F is for Forms, on the podcast, probably
That's
going
right.
back two
That's
or three
right. months
now. And obviously you discovered that content was out there, and we had made the most tangential we literally just said that your form existed, and then you contacted me and we got into a conversation, and I was really captivated by what it is that you offer, and I was utterly bemused by how it is that you don't have the market share that some of the other form plugins are. So I just want to address that first.
Sure.
First of all, whatever you're doing, pause this podcast if you're at a computer and go to wsform.com, have a 5-minute poke around, then come back, because you'll be better armed to understand what we're going to talk about. How is it that a form building solution as complicated, as deep, as, well, I mean, it's got literally everything. Why do we not hear about it as much as the other players?
We're very, very new to the market, first of all. So, whereas other form plugins have about 10 years on us, we're very new to the market. We did launch about 2 years ago, and it's kind of been a soft launch because we wanted to make sure we get the product right. So we've been continually developing the product ever since we've launched. I think one of the comments you made was the number of free installs we have on WordPress.org. And one of the challenges with WordPress.org as a new plugin developer is it's very difficult for us to get exposure and to shout about our product on a platform such as WordPress.org, because their search algorithm is very much focused on the established players out there. The results are very much based on the total number of installs. So from that regard, we're not that well known on WordPress.org itself, but we have a growing customer base with the Pro edition of our product, and very happy to be doing this podcast today with you to be able to shout about it and make more people aware of it. So we're about to ramp up the shouting of our product, about to ramp up the marketing and make more people aware of it. Now that we're in a good place, we feel with the product, we feel that we've bug tested it thoroughly as we can. There will always be bug fixes and improvements that we can make. And really, we have been intensely listening to our customers for the past 2 years about where they want the product to go, how they want to steer it, and customer service for us is a very hot part of what we do.
Okay. One of the curious things which you do, which may differ and may explain some of this, is the fact that very often you'll find that a premium plugin requires the, let's call it the base version, the WordPress.org version, and then you build on top of that with the premium version. So you end up with two plugins, and you've got the premium version, which is not the .org version. You have a different approach to that, which may go some way to explaining why it's got less installs on the .org side.
Yeah, a lot of plugins will require you to keep the free version installed, and then they'll bolt on the pro functionality on top of that. And one of the reasons they'll do that is because it keeps their WordPress.org install count up. We, from day one, have been trying to develop a form plugin where you don't need 6 or 7 plugins to make your form do what it needs to do. All of that introduces bloat into your website. It affects performance. It affects the efficiency of your website. So one of the key things that we have done is to try and keep the number of plugins that you need for WS Form down to an absolute minimum. Typically, you'll only need WS Form Pro and perhaps an add-on for an integration. You don't need a plugin, for example, to have a signature field or a color field. Or even a plugin to have a default value on a field, which you actually have to do with some other plugins. So we've really tried to bundle in as much functionality as we can into the core efficiently so that you don't need all of those additional plugins. And that's why when someone converts from our free version to our pro version, we lose that install on WordPress.org. But in the end, I believe that's better for the customer because they don't have that bloat there.
Yeah.
And we have some customers when we look at their sites and they've got 50 plugins installed, and I'm about trying to keep that plugin count down as much as possible and keeping it efficient.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. The sort of the UVP at the top of the website is build better WordPress forms, no code form development. I don't know if no code form development is the sort of thing that you want to hang everything on top of, if that's kind of like the main feature. Is that where you're pitching yourself, that you can do complicated things without the need to get into complicated development?
I think one of the key things as a web development agency that we found frustrating with form plugins was the amount of customization we had to do on top of their product to get a form doing what we wanted it to do. And it was almost like putting an alien on your site every time you wanted to put a form on there. And I found that what we were looking for really was a solution that was fully mobile responsive. That's one of the things that's, one of our key selling points is the fact that WS Form can truly build a mobile responsive site form without the need for any custom classes. So just to talk on that point for one moment, the mobile responsive editor that we have, the layout editor, enables you to preview the form in different breakpoints, i.e. view the form on different devices. And the ability to do that means that you can basically choose a different form layout for every different device that you're targeting. So a lot of form plugins they may enable you to introduce a layout of different columns, but you can't control those columns for different mobile devices. So your mobile device is going to look exactly the same as your desktop device, which is just not great with a form. With a form, you want to try and keep it presentable, easy to complete. And on a mobile device, that can be very tricky when you've got lots of columns involved. You typically want a single column layout on mobile. So that's one of the things that we can do without the need for any custom coding, any custom classes. The other thing that we have done behind the scenes is if you're using a framework such as Bootstrap or Foundation, our forms work out of the box with those frameworks. So there's no additional coding needed, no additional classes need to be added. It'll just work with those themes that are using those frameworks. And we support Bootstrap 5 now, which has come out in the last week. So all ready to go on that. And then we have our own framework built in, which is ideal for any other theme that's out there using any other type of framework. And it's, has all the columns, it has all of the inputs styled neatly. And you can, of course, add your own CSS on top of that if you want to style things. But we work with the WordPress Customize feature to enable you to change fonts, colors, and borders and padding and stuff like that.
Sorry, please carry on.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things that I remember when I was playing with it, I think you've got 5 breakpoints, is that right?
It's 12.
12, apologies.
No, in terms of breakpoints, we have 5. Other frameworks will have different breakpoints, like 6. Some of them have 3. It just depends on what framework WS Form is set up for. In terms of columns, we have 12. Sorry, but
Got
yeah,
it.
breakpoints out of the box is 5. Yeah, so you've got kind of mobile, tablet, laptop, and then a couple of desktop sizes after that.
Got it. The sort of 12 column layout that you're describing, again, if you were just to go to the WS Form website, wsform.com website, and have a look, right near the top you'll see a picture of the UI of the editor, the thing that you'll build the forms in. You'll notice it's built within WordPress, so you've got the WordPress admin area to the left, and then you've got the ability to select the bits that you would like to put in the form. That all lives over on the right, and you sort of drag it into a 12 column layout, which is just breathtakingly cool. So you can drop it in, and let's say you want it to, I don't know, you want the name field to occupy 3 columns, you just drag it, and any other ones that you put underneath, if it reaches 9 or more, it will sort of slot in underneath. If it's 9 or less, it will go next to it, and so on. And so you can build these incredibly rich, complicated forms. If it's a contact form on a mum and pop website, it's probably not going to need all of this.
Right.
But if you want something complicated, and you've got multiple fields, and the form is getting to be bloated and complicated, this is such a nice way of doing it. Honestly, massive congratulations on the layout of the builder. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and we wanted to make sure the builder sat within the WordPress interface. It
Yep.
didn't jump out like some other editors do, which I find that frustrating, having to flip between kind of WordPress and another editor. So we've managed to keep it within that environment. And as well as the sizing of fields, you've also got sections. So fields can sit within sections. Sections can be sized to any width that you want. And sections can also be repeatable as well. So we have full repeater functionality in there. Those repeaters are fully compatible with our conditional logic, with any of the other features of WS Form as well. So that's another sticking point with some form plugins, is the repeatable section functionality. You typically have to do it with code, and it doesn't support all of the features of the plugin. Ours does support all of the features. The only field we have that doesn't work with repeaters is recapture fields. So
Right. Yeah.
typically you'll only have one of those.
Somewhat unnecessary. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But everything else.
The thing that struck me as well was how complicated you could make things become. And I don't mean complicated in the sense of difficult to understand. I mean, your requirement could be complicated, but you can do it with WS Form in a way that I really think would be a difficult ask for just about anything else I've ever seen. And so that's kind of an area I want to get into in a minute. I mean, you've got all of the typical stuff in there. You've got drag and drop forms for every conceivable type of input that you would like. I'm pretty sure that you've got everything covered. I can't think that there was anything I thought, oh, that's missing, that's curious. So all of that is a given. But I want to stray into the area of why it's so good with the complicated stuff. What is it that you've built, that you've taken the time to develop and finesse, that make this capable for non-coders in the areas where really non-coders have no business being?
Right, I think there are 3 broad areas where we've really focused. First of all is on the building blocks for the website, the number of fields that we have available. But also, if you dig into WS Form, you start to understand how deep we've gone into being able to configure each of those elements. So, for example, a text field, we've pretty much ripped apart the entire HTML5 spec and giving you control over every attribute that even a text field can offer. So you've got things such as, we've also added some additional functionality such as max number of words that you can enter into an input field, minimum number of words you can enter into a field. But we also have data lists attached to text fields for, as you're typing, it'll make suggestions on what what it thinks you're trying to type in. So if you've got a list of countries on a text field, you can even do that with a data list as well. So yeah, we've got a very rich set of building blocks there on the field side. We also have a section library, which enables you to drag and drop groups of fields onto a form, which makes building forms very, very quick. So you can drag and drop an address section across, and you've got everything in there you need: first name, last name, address fields, Google Map setups, all kinds of stuff on the section side. You can also create your own sections in that section library so you can reuse them. So if you come up with a nice chunk on a form that you'd like to use elsewhere, you can put that into the section library and reuse it. So yeah, a very, very rich and powerful layout editor. Secondly, I would say our conditional logic is just second to none compared to other form plugins.
It's so good.
It's very, very in depth, and it's one of those things where you kind of need to try it. And I encourage people to try our demo on our website. You can sign up for a free demo. But the conditional logic is context sensitive on every single field type. So you can say things such as, if this color field has a hue level of something, then show this on the form. Or, you can show hide tabs, sections, and fields. You can even fire events. You can you could save the form in the background as someone hovers a mouse over a certain field. There's so much capability in there, and we're growing that as time goes on as well. We're adding more and more to that based upon customer feedback that we get. That's been very, very important to us in steering the product, is listening to the customers. So a lot of what you see in WS Form has actually come from suggestions from our customers. Mm-hmm. So that's the conditional logic, and that, I could go on for hours talking about the capabilities of what you can do with that.
I'm just going to interrupt you for a minute there, and
sure.
I really do want to stress it is quite boggling what the capabilities of this are. Obviously, you've just drawn out a one about hue.
Yeah.
Honestly, go and have a look, because the capability here is more or less endless. If you can imagine it and you understand the WS Form UI, I think you could pull it off inside a drag and drop editor with some basic understanding of what it is that you're trying to do. It's unbelievably clever. Well done.
Yeah, thanks. And you'll find that most form plugins will have some form of conditional logic, but they're typically, if this field equals this value, then show this or hide this field. We recognize early on that people need a lot more than that. And that conditional logic can be used for very simple things, such as making a form easier to complete. So don't show this section unless somebody has completed this section, and this section. One of the things about our conditional logic as well is that we've moved the conditional logic from being field centric to form centric. And what I mean by that is, typically you'll go into a field on another form plugin, and there'll be some conditions about when to show that field. Our conditional logic will say things such as, if field X, Y, and Z equals this, then do this with field A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. And that's all done within one conditional logic. And we've made some recent updates to our conditional logic as well, so that when you're in that editor, it actually highlights the fields and sections and tabs that are involved with the conditional logic that you're working on, to make it a lot easier to see what you're manipulating on the form. The third thing that I think we do very well is our actions. So the output of a form is, obviously you potentially want to receive an email about it, or you'd like to send a notification to somebody about a form submission. Those things are not unheard of in any form plugin. What we've done with actions is taken that a step further. You can add as many actions as you want. You can order those actions. So within just one form submission, you can push it to MailChimp. You can send a message to Slack. You can send an email, and you can show a message on the screen for 5 seconds and then redirect after 5 seconds. And you can add as many of those actions as you wish, reorder them in any order that you want. And that's been a very, very powerful feature of WS Form. In addition to the ability to push content to third parties such as MailChimp or Salesforce or Slack or any of the integrations that we have, which is growing. We also turn that around and use those integrations as an input for your form as well. So traditionally, if you wanted to build a form that was going to link to MailChimp, you would build a form, and then you would map those fields to MailChimp and then publish your form. With WS Form, when you go into templates and you have our MailChimp add-on installed, there's a template shown for every list in your MailChimp account. And you click on that template and it builds the template for you. So you don't have to do anything. It's a ready, out-of-the-box template which works and pushes content excuse me,
It's okay.
across to MailChimp for you. You can also use MailChimp as an input for the form as well. So if you want to offer somebody the ability to edit their profile that they have in MailChimp, such as changing their name or their email address, you can actually pull the data from MailChimp, populate the form, and then when they submit the form, it then goes back to MailChimp again with the new data. So, and pretty much every single one of our add-ons does that. So we have templates for every third-party integration that we work with. We also have very, very deep integration with ACF, which is another thing we should touch on. So advanced custom fields, which enables you to create custom fields for your posts and pages and custom post types. We have gone very, very deep with the integration on that so far that you can create a form for a custom post type, click add to create a form, and it'll actually pull in all of your ACF fields onto that form as well, including repeaters. So you can, if you build a custom post type in WordPress using ACF and you've got a bunch of fields there, you can in one click literally create a form which will then submit new posts of that type, including all of the ACF stuff.
That is so nice. Yeah. Can you, the amount of time that you spend going backwards and forwards, building forms and then mapping the form fields to the ACF slug and what have you. Yeah, that's just a great time saver. Nice.
Yeah. It's been that also extends to our user management plugin as well, because obviously you can use ACF with user fields. So you can create registration forms that include your ACF fields for users as well. So if you're asking for additional information from a customer, we can include that as well.
One of the things that I found myself doing more recently, which you just, again, you've kind of aced it a bit, is the whole calculation thing. You know, you can I've been toying with forms to kind of add things up, and if you put a 6 in this box, it'll multiply this value from this other field by 6, and so on and so forth. You really have taken this to another level. You've actually included a calculator in the plugin, and you can literally type things out in the calculation, do the calculations on the calculator, which are then usable. You'd have to figure it all out yourself. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to say about the calculation fields, but it really did stand out to me as something worth talking about.
Yeah, so as well as the conditional logic, which gives you a great deal of a dynamic ability with your form, we also have a very extensive what we call variables library. So you can use that to inject dynamic content into a form, such as today's date, for example, and things like that. But we also have what we call a hash calc field, which enables you to do very complicated calculations using, at its most basic level, things such as number fields and price fields. But you can also do stuff based upon the number of rows in a repeatable section. So you could, for example, have a repeater where you can type in people's names, and then it would say 5 times, i.e. the number of rows, 5 times a price, and then that could then ultimately be linked off to a Stripe button, so you could charge somebody 5 times something for the number of people that are in those repeatable sections. So yeah, and the hash calc comes with a full set of mathematical functions as well. And we have a bunch of templates that you can just click on from within the Add New page, and you've got things in there such as a mortgage calculator, a loan calculator. So some of them you don't want to click on and put your mortgage amount in, and it can be depressing at times. But no, there's a number of different calculator examples in there that you can play around with.
Yeah, they're really nice because they give you an instant insight into how it's all built, and how the structure of these things work. So that would be a total great bit of advice. Just go and play with those, because it's going to
Yeah.
completely short circuit the amount of time that you're going to have to figure out how it all works. Yeah.
Yeah, for complex forms, as with any system, WS form is a learning curve, but we find that once people have played around with it a little bit, they really get it and they understand how it works. It's a very, very powerful tool.
Our community seem to be. We talk a lot about different plugins and different things. So for example, ACF that you mentioned, and page builders and what have you. I'm
Right.
just looking on the homepage again. There's a blue horizontal row about a third of the way down, something like that, called Feature Rich One Plugin, and it really does. Wow, it's like a laundry list. I'm going to guess there's about 50 things on there. And instantly things that are jumping out, which are of interest to me, are things like the fact that you've obviously got ACF in there. You've got an oxygen element. You've got the option to do things like e-commerce. There's a Beaver Builder integration. And honestly, I can't decide which ones to say. But are there any of those which, bearing in mind you've got a fairly technical audience who are really into WordPress, is there any of those that you want to sort of like draw out as being something that you're really proud of that's a bit different?
I think the data encryption is probably worth mentioning. So we have data encryption
Yep.
out of the box. That enables you to encrypt all of the data by essentially adding a key behind the scenes that will encrypt and then decrypt the data that people submit. That has been quite a popular feature, actually. In today's secure environment, it is quite a nice feature to have built in. It's not something.
I'm curious, actually. I can't remember seeing that elsewhere. Maybe they do have it on other systems, but I don't remember seeing it.
Yeah,
What's the stack you're using to encrypt and what have you?
Well, it's all built in. It's using HKDF SHA 256 keys. It's using AES 256 encryption.
Okay.
The only thing you need on the server is OpenSSL for PHP, which most hosting providers have out of the box. It is a feature you've got to be careful of, because if you lose that key, that data cannot be decrypted. So we do make sure that people put that in a very, very safe and secure place. But yeah, that's one of the nice features. I mean, I'm trying to think what other stuff that we could talk about. There's so many things.
There really are so many things, and you've got. So this is a nice one. I'm going to just drop this in because this is a nice visual thing that people may have been sort of scouring around the internet and even paying a SaaS app for. Is this conversational forms? So you've got the ability to sort of surface one question at a time, and once you've completed that field, it sort of scrolls out of view or fades. I don't know how you implement that. That's quite a nice feature, just built in right off the bat. That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's built in and very, very simple to use, actually. So what we do is for each section in your form, that becomes one step in that conversational form. So typically you'll just put one field in each section to keep it simple, but with WS Form you can actually put multiple fields in a section. All the conditional logic is supported as well, so you can actually switch sections on and off within that conversational form format. But like you say, it's just a very clean and simple way of presenting a form to a user, just to make it more digestible.
Yeah, I've just done a quick back of the postage stamp calculation. There's about 60 different things mentioned on there, and right at the end, the really one that's just caught my eye just now is the WooCommerce integration. Obviously, WooCommerce, huge thing. It may be that you've got your entire agency built off the back of that. Tell us a little bit more about that one in particular.
Yeah, so the WooCommerce integration enables you to put our forms on a product to customize that product. So if you want to, and again, that supports all of our features, all the conditional logic, all the variables, everything, even tabs. You can actually put a little tabulated form on your product. And we have a website, woocommerce.wsform.com, and that has some demos on there showing you how that can be used. But it's very useful, for example, if you want to do a t-shirt customization site. You can actually choose a color for the t-shirt and show a preview of the t-shirt in different colors. You can also use it for simple things such as a donation. So if you want to just create a donation product on your website, you can use it for that. We have it for people that want to customize other products by typing in, a personalization string into the form. It can be used for that as well. So as well as being able to, the way it basically works for the technical people amongst us is it adds metadata to the cart data from the fields that are completed. But it also ties in with our e-commerce functionality. So effectively, our e-commerce fields become an addition to the product price. So you can use it to customize the price of the product as well as customizing in terms of asking people for information about a product.
I have a sincere question, Mark, and this is not supposed to be flippant, right? You've done this in a matter of years, and you've got your own agency, which is an important part of your working environment, and yet you, when do you sleep?
Very rarely.
Honestly, I'm absolutely bowled over. One of the things I want to sort of get into now is everybody who uses a form, they want to hook it up to some sort of third party. At some point, you're gonna meet a client who comes to you and says, "I have an active campaign account, and it's crucial to me that the data from this form hits active campaign and all of the tags can be applied through there," and so on and so forth. And if you go to wsform.com/add-ons, so add-ons, then you're going to see a bucket load of integrations. I mean, the usual suspects are all there. You've got Active Campaign, Campaign Monitor, ConvertKit, which is, I think, really a growing platform, isn't it? But then you've got some other ones, which is quite curious. You've got Dropbox thrown in there, PayPal, Pipedrive, PDF. There's all sorts going on. And I'm struggling to think of something that I've ever used that's not on that list. So bravo.
Yeah, and that's a growing list as well. We have quite a nice little setup where we can generate these add-ons relatively quickly. And we have a feature request page on our wsform.com website for our customers where they can request new add-ons for this. So we've got quite a few actually in progress right now. But yeah, we have all the basic ones that people expect. We've also got integration with Google Sheets, which is a very, very popular add-on, which enables you to push form submissions to Google Sheets as new rows of data.
Nice.
And then you've got, the Salesforce, the WooCommerce integration. The post management and the user management are very popular for adding content to WordPress. And then you've got Zapier as well, which basically enables you to integrate WS Form with pretty much anything.
Yes, yeah, that's right. I just noticed another one, Groundhog, a very popular WordPress sort of CRM type tool. That's great to see
we've
as well.
got a very, very deep integration with them as well. So again, single click forms, you can click on one of your Groundhog lists. It'll create a form for you. We also have a benchmark for Groundhog so that when a form is submitted, you can then start a funnel in Groundhog with their CRM system. And it works great.
It's just
big fans of Groundhog.
Yeah, it's amazingly impressive. You've got the obvious payment ones. You've got PayPal and Stripe and so on. As we said, you've got WooCommerce. You've got user management, so you can create users from forms, and post management, so you can map post what's in your form to your ACR fields and ultimately get it onto your website and so on. Salesforce. The list is impressive. I'm literally going to make up that there's about 35 on there or something like that. I don't know if it's as many as that, but it's a lot. So that's wsform.com/add-ons add-ons. But that kind of brings us, because you've gone for a sort of different approach with the pricing model there. Each one of those add-ons is charged at a yearly rate. So we'll get into the whole pricing thing. But no, let's stay with add-ons first. They are, as far as I can see, they begin at $19 a year per add-on, which is a very reasonable price considering what you're giving. And it looks to me as if they go up to a ceiling of what looks like $39 a year for some of the more complicated ones. So you get WS Form. We'll talk about the pricing of the main plugin in a moment. But if you want some of these extended features, it's going to be $19 to $39 per annum, right?
Yeah, and that's really only if you want to integrate WS Form with a third party.
Got it.
So the idea is the core product comes with all of the functionality we've spoken to up until the point of the add-ons. And then if you want to bolt that onto a third-party system, then you can buy an add-on for that.
Okay.
And that's how the personal edition of our plugin works, which is the $59 a year version. And then we have a freelance version for $149 a year. And that includes a number of our popular add-ons included.
Got it.
You get a 5-site license, so you can use it on 5 different sites. Plus, we give you add-ons such as GetResponse, MailChimp, the PayPal checkout, Slack, etc. And then we have an agency edition, which is basically us giving you our soul. You get everything. So it's unlimited sites, and it includes all of our add-ons. The only add-on it doesn't include is the WooCommerce add-on. That's one that we sell exclusively through woocommerce.com.
Okay.
But all of the other add-ons are included. The WooCommerce add-on is $49. A lot of the product they call them product add-ons in WooCommerce world as a WooCommerce extension. They're typically about $80 to $100. So we've priced ours $49 just to make it a little bit more digestible. But we use WooCommerce as a sales channel, and that's why that one is sold through woocommerce.com.
Okay, so for this, you're going to go to wsforms.com/pricing, and it is really aggressive pricing, I've got to say. I think it's incredibly competitive, especially when you go up to the sort of higher end of things. Just to be clear, the personal one site, you get 100 templates, you get all the 55 fields, you get a bunch of pro actions, you get all the conditional logic, the calculations and all of that, and you get some other bits and pieces as well. That's for one site. So if that suits you, that is a steal. Go up to 149 and you've got 5 sites, and you can see the list if you go to that page. You get a bunch of the add-ons that we just mentioned, and then, as Mark just said, 249 you get pretty much everything except WooCommerce. So you get unlimited sites, which is incredible, and everything except WooCommerce. So everything basically that you see on the site, as you described, you give them your soul, which I just think you should add that. That'd be a great deal. Yeah. You can have our soul for $249.
Every late night is yours.
That's right. Every single late night. Now, one of the things that everybody wants to know, because it's important to them, and I suspect it's equally important to you, mentioned on the pricing table is the tiered levels of support. So for personal, we get what's called standard support. For the freelance, we get premium support, and for the agency, we get agency support. You just want to, what do you mean by those? What's your response times? How do you deal with support, basically?
Yeah, so our standard support would typically get back to people within a day without a problem. We're a regular business, open Monday to Friday. We're 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time. But as Nathan mentioned, I'm usually awake at ungodly hours. We do answer support tickets outside of those hours as well. We do the best we can. But so the personal typical response time is going to be about a day. Quite honestly, we get back to people pretty quickly on every level. But going up to the agency level, we will get back to people within 3-4 hours at the very most. We are in terms of customer service. If somebody comes to us and we find a genuine issue with the software, we find a bug. We find bugs in all software. We are very quick to react to that, and we're not scared to push an update for a customer to fix an issue that is stopping them from doing what they need to do. And if we have somebody that has a requirement that we can develop something for relatively quickly, we'll do that for them. But as I said, we've also got the feature request page where we've got kind of a voting system. So people can request new features and vote for those features. So we're currently working through that list. That's just an ongoing process for us, really. But so support is very, very important to us. It's what's got us to this stage. It's what has given us a straight run of 5-star reviews on WordPress.org, which we're very proud of and very thankful for. And we hope to continue that. And that's, we do have people time to time asking us about lifetime deals for WS Form. And I'm of the opinion that I want to keep this product supported long term and don't want to end up in a position in 3 years where I've got no income coming in because everyone's on a lifetime deal. We want to keep developing this. I have staff I have to pay to continue to develop the product and support the product as well. So we're going to be sticking with the yearly licenses to keep the business solid.
I think anybody who runs a business can literally have no gripe about that pricing model. It's just how commerce works.
Yeah,
right?
We feel bad that we can't offer it to some people, but at the end of the day, we want to be around in 5 years' time, 10 years' time. So.
Another good spot to go, main heading, the menu, knowledge base is wsform.com/knowledge base, all one word. Extensive list of articles that you can read, clearly labelled, telling you what to do when and how to do things and so on, with lots of helpful screenshots and things like that. So loads and loads of opportunity to learn about it. Like I said, the main URL is wsform.com. It is... I do wish that there were a way that I could emphasize how complicated you can make things with this, but it's audio, dag nabbit. So we're kind of constrained by what we could do. But go check it out. Give yourself 20 minutes this week. Put things on pause. If you've had any qualms about something that you found overly complicated with another form plugin, something that you just literally couldn't figure out how to do, it may very well be that Mark has built the solution that you're looking for. So, Mark, where can we find you on the internet if people are curious and they want to reach out to you? Social, anything like that, email, whatever.
Yeah, if anybody wants to email me with any questions, then just email mark@wsform.com. We'll be happy to get back to you. We've also got a support area, contact area on wsform.com. If you have any questions about the product, feel free to try the demo. Just go to wsform.com/demo and you can sign up for a free, I think it's a 7-day trial that we do. Sets up a little WordPress environment for you and you can try the product there. And then if you just are looking for a very basic form plugin that also has submissions included in it that can build your basic contact us form or any other kind of basic form for your website, you can go to wordpress.org and go to the plugin directory, search for WS Form and download our free version there. You can try that version.
Very nice indeed. Mark, congratulations on such an excellent WordPress product. Every wish that it's successful in the future. And thank you. Thanks for you coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, thank you very much, and happy birthday, Nathan.
Oh, you had to mention that right at the end.
I got it in.
I'm 21 again. Thank you so much. Well, I hope that you enjoyed the podcast today. It was very nice chatting with Mark all about WS Form. If you're intrigued, like I said, we did a webinar a little while ago, and you can check that out at wpbuilds.com/webinars. It may well give you some more insight in a visual way. It's quite hard sometimes to describe these things in audio form, but it is a very, very capable form, and I'm very surprised that it hasn't got the notoriety of some other forms, but that's probably due to its new age, if you like. So anyway, check it out, and I hope that you got something out of the podcast today. Speaking of webinars, just a quick reminder that we've got one coming up this Tuesday, 13th of July, 2 p.m. UK time, with Leslie from Newsletter Glue, which is an amazing solution which we're now using to send out our newsletters, all built with Gutenberg blocks. The WP Builds podcast was brought to you today by A/B Split Test. Do you want to set up your A/B split tests in record time? The new A/B Split Test plugin for WordPress, it'll have you up and running in a couple of minutes. Use your existing pages and test anything with anything else. Buttons, images, headers, rows, anything. And the best part is it works with Elementor, Beaver Builder and the WordPress block editor. You can check it out. Get a free demo at absplittest.com. Okay, we will be back next week. As it was an interview this week, I'll be having a chat with my good friend David Wormsley next week, all about something to do with the A to Z of WordPress. Don't forget to join us for that. And also, join us on Monday, every Monday live at 2 p.m. UK time, for our This Week in WordPress show. Always joined by Paul Lacey and some other notable WordPress guests. So there's lots going on this week. We'll see you at some point. If not, stay safe. Have a good week. Bye-bye for now.